Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle, featuring your hosts, the writer, Chris Pike, and the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle for this week. Another massive show. A big week we saw in the NBL as we return to normal action after the NBL Cup. We've got a big week ahead and also a big month ahead now that the extra 3 weeks of the fixture have been announced. We've got some teams that are really starting to stand out. We've seen some players putting up some incredible performances, and we'll have a full show of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. We'll have the TABtouch preview with Matty Knight. We'll have the Damo Award thanks to Boomering with Damian Martin. I'm Chris Pike, but the star of the show, the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. How do we find you this week?
Oh, look, Pikey, it's been it was good to get back out on the sidelines and see some live NBL action. And, I'm excited about what's happening in the league. And, just talking everything NBL, especially, I know we're probably going to talk about the level of play that Bryce is playing at the moment. It's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm fascinated to pick your brain just from seeing what you saw up close and in person in that game on Friday night. Plenty to sort of discuss from that, and I'll do the same with Damian Martin later about what he saw on Monday night when the Wildcats played the 36ers as well. I just think you get a different perspective just from seeing the game live than through a TV screen. But round 10 in the NBL, fascinating results, Shawn. I'll race through them. You tell me what sticks out to you. So it started the Sydney Kings hammering Melbourne United, 103-75. Then the game you saw live, comfortable win for the Wildcats. Beat the Cairns Taipans 93-75. Overtime game, once again, between the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and the Adelaide 36ers. The Phoenix won 96-89. Big win for the Brisbane Bullets, 88-67 over the New Zealand Breakers. Melbourne United finally snapped that losing streak, 75-65 over the Illawarra Hawks. Another tight one. And another game I'll be fascinated to get your thoughts about some of the decisions made down the stretch from a coaching point of view later, Shawn. The Sydney Kings 75 beat the Cairns Taipans 73. And then Monday night, 92-82 win for the Wildcats over the 36ers. What jumped out at you about all of that, Shawn?
Yeah, I think we're really starting to see probably the top 6 in the league start to, I guess, kind of break away from the bottom 3. I kind of feel like it's a race for the top 4 between, say, the Kings, Bullets, Hawks, and Phoenix. I think the Wildcats and United are going to be in there. But those last 2 spots are going to go to those 2 teams from what it's looking like. I think you look at the 36ers, they've had so many home games. They're sitting 7-12. They're still without Humphreys. And, I like some of the changes they made, but I just don't think that they're going to have enough firepower, and the amount of road games they're going to have as well. It's going to make it tough for them to get in there. So it's really going to be a fight between those 6 teams to get those top 4 spots, and I'm looking forward to see how that plays out.
No, I think you make a good point. So just running through those standings quickly, the Wildcats on top, 11-4, Melbourne United 11-5, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix third, 10-7. Then the Aurora Hawks still sitting fourth, 9-7. Brisbane Bullets just outside, 9-7. Sydney Kings 9-8. And then, as you said, there is a bit of a gap. You've got the Adelaide 36ers 7-12, New Zealand Breakers 4-10, and the Cairns Taipans 4-14. Let's start with the Wildcats, Shawn. You saw them up close on Friday night. I never felt they were ever in danger of that game against the Taipans. I think they were up 16-4 early, and the game pretty much stayed at that margin most of the rest of the way. So this team coming into the season, a lot of people were ready to say that the streak was over. So you lost Damian Martin, Nick Kay, Miles Plumlee, and Tariko White. Sort of only brought in Todd Blanchfield, and I guess John Mooney was an unknown straight out of college. On paper, this team shouldn't be this good. But right now, as I said last week, I stand by it. They should be the championship favourites in my mind.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably what the Wildcats stand for. And that's, making sure you got the pieces that fit together, everyone playing as a team. And, they talk about it on the coverage about playing through your superstar. There's no better team in the league that plays through their superstars than the Wildcats. I mean, the IQ of the players out there has been pretty impressive from my point of view. Guys getting offensive rebounds, and instead of going up and taking up a shot, they get the ball back into Bryce's hands because they know if Bryce has the ball in his hands 3 times in a possession, there's no team, no player in the league that's going to be able to stop him that many times. So it's, they're playing well together. Mooney's kind of this unassuming superstar. And even the game on Monday night where it took him a long time before he even got his first bucket, he still had an impact, 11 points. I believe it was 14 rebounds, and probably his quietest game in a long time, and he's still getting a double-double. So I just like how well they're playing. One of the comments was, are they peaking too early? I mean, I don't know. They're playing some great basketball. I guess it remains to be seen. To me, it's going to be making sure their key guys stay healthy, and I think Blanchfield's kind of finding his role within that. I was kind of wondering, could he replace what Tariq White gave him, that outside presence and just that third score, and he's really taken a liking to it. I'm sure he's enjoying playing next to a guy like Bryce Cotton who's willing to pass the ball, but draws so much attention that kind of makes his job a little bit easier.
We've got to talk about Bryce Cotton. That performance against the 36ers was incredible. There's no one, I don't know if there's defenders in the NBA that could have stopped him. The form he was in, 23 points in that first half, 36 for the game, and he was still fantastic on Friday night as well against the Taipans. You've seen his whole career, Shawn. Is this the best form he's ever been in right now?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think the Wildcats are adjusting. What you're seeing is they're not setting as many kind of on-ball screens for Bryce because they know teams can just double-team him. So you're seeing him playing a little bit, run through their offense, and then let Bryce just be Bryce. I mean, when he's crossing over, step back, raising up, the height that he gets on his three-point shot, almost unguardable. And, you talk about that 36ers game and 23 at halftime, but he actually didn't shoot the ball unbelievable. He shot the ball well, but he missed quite a few shots as well. But I think he's just the level that he's playing at, the confidence. Probably my favorite was that second half against the 36ers at the end of the NBL Cup as well, where he just kind of basically willed that team back to down 23 at one point into a win. And that's just the competitiveness of him and the level that he's playing. Something people don't maybe think about all the time is when the NBL went to a 40-minute game, I remember Kevin Lish, I believe, was the leading scorer in the league at right around 16 points a game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
16 points a game. And you look at now, we've got Bryce Cotton. Last I had a look.
25, isn't he?
25 a game, maybe even higher now after this week. So, and let's be honest, the talent of the league has gotten better. So it's not like Bryce is going against weaker defenders. I just think
26.1.
26.1. There you go. So I think it just goes to show the level of play that he's playing at. And we know Kevin Lish is an unbelievable player. I mean, Damian Martin talks about Kevin Lish being quite possibly the toughest player he had to play against outside of Bryce Cotton. And so, it's just remarkable. And I think, whenever his career finishes, let's hope it's for a long time, I think we're going to be a bit like Andrew Gage. We're going to be like, wow, that was an incredible career, and we're pretty lucky to witness it.
Quick questions for you, Shawn. Just whatever springs to mind first. Is he the best ever Wildcat, or is Ricky Grace still in front?
Look, I'm a big fan.
Or is Shawn Redhage in front?
Let's say the best Wildcat from Nebraska might be Shawn. But I think you have to throw both those in the conversation. I'm going to give the edge to Ricky on longevity. And to be transparent, I didn't get to see Ricky play a whole lot. I've seen a lot of highlights. I've seen some games. I wasn't, here during those years where he was just, and everyone speaks incredibly highly of him. But, just look at how many games he played, how many championships, all that. I think Ricky's still top. But Bryce is closing, and probably it's not going to be till he finishes his career. Let's hope it's still with the Wildcats or in the NBL for a long time to go. But I think there'll definitely be that debate to be had at some point.
Yeah, I think when we discussed it last year, we kind of both agreed that maybe the 200 game mark is kind of that benchmark. So if he gets to that 200 game sort of barrier, I think he can be considered that, and he's not far away from that. So right now he's played 125, so you would think he's going to get to that 200 games. Do you think there's ever been a better import over the course of a career than Bryce?
Oh, I think you've got to go with longevity. A lot of people talk about Leroy Loggins. Some of the stats he put up was video game like. I think that one's still a tough one, but he's got to be in that conversation with 2 or 3, one of the best imports, and just the impact. The guy is just not only is he a winner, but he puts up incredible stats, but great teammate as well. He's just kind of that all-arounder. I have no idea how he was a free agent and the Wildcats were able to sign him, but quite possibly the best signing they've ever done, especially a mid-season signing. That's pretty remarkable.
It is. I don't think we'll ever see anyone match the accomplishments of Andrew Gaze over the period he did. By the end of Bryce's career, do you think he'll be the second best NBL player behind Gaze?
I don't think it'll be in everyone. I don't think it'll be definitive that, say, Bryce Cotton is the second best. I think there'll be people, but definitely those that have probably only watched the NBL, in the last probably 10, 15 years. I think that he'll be in their eyes. No doubt that he could be the second best player to ever play in this league. And that's, the guy's 31. He's still got, they talk about 32, 33 when you're playing in your prime at times. So look out for the next couple of years as well.
And just finally, what role do you see him being able to play on the Boomers? Do you think he can actually be someone that plays a significant role on that team, or would he fill just that 11th and 12th player spot?
That is an interesting one. I'd be interested to see him kind of match up Patty Mills, put those two out there, and then you throw like a Ben Simmons and an Aaron Baines and Joe Ingles. I mean, I'm looking at that lineup thinking a 3-point shooting. I mean, we've seen Ingles leading the NBA in 3-point shooting. Bryce is one of the best shooters we've seen in the NBL. We know what Patty Mills does on the international stage. So, and Aaron Baines
he can shoot the 3.
Yeah, he's really come along. And that's the international game. And then you got Ben Simmons, who we know, but when you've got 4 other great 3-point shooters, you don't need someone. You need a distributor, and that's Ben Simmons to a T. So I'd be interested to see that lineup out there on the court. And then you can kind of bring in a Dellavedova as your as your spark plug. The guy that's just kind of do the dirty work to help you get wins.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see, but we assume it's going to happen. We assume that citizenship is getting closer. A couple of other things I wanted to pick your brain about, Shawn. We saw in Perth last week both the Cairns Taipans and the Adelaide 36ers. They were both competitive. I think they both put up a fight. In the end, neither of them were able to fully challenge the Wildcats, but they fought hard. Do you think they're being coached well enough right now? Especially maybe the Taipans team, because you saw them close up?
Yeah, look, I think they just have lost that defensive spark and intensity. And, I think sometimes when they're playing offensively well, they can get away with it, but they haven't played. They're not an offensive juggernaut out there. And so it just seems like they don't seem like they're gelling as a team. Just the body language coming out of the game. Didn't think Cam Oliver was really into that game in Perth. I thought, he tends to, if things aren't going his way, he can kind of go into his shell, and it seemed like that. Nate Jarwa is providing sparks at times, but just never feels like they're all in it together and playing at the right way. It's just almost like there's 1 or 2 guys that are a little bit missing the mark. We've talked about how much they're missing Newble, but I don't know if that necessarily, even if you throw Newble back into that squad at the moment. I mean, for Machado to have 0 assists or more turnovers than assists over the last few games tells you a lot of where the team is at, where everyone is in the season. It just kind of got that sense, and that they were sick of being in the NBL Cup and wanted to go home. So I think it's one of those. I don't know if they've got the personnel right. Obviously, they had some injuries there. they brought back a team that was pretty competitive last year, but I think they're going to need to make some changes to be able to get back up in the standings at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they're missing Majuk Deng, who had kind of stepped into that role as the third option behind Oliver and Machado, so they're missing him. But I want to talk about Nate Jarwa because he's in really good form right now. No matter who's guarding him, when he catches the ball in his right spot down in the block, he's unstoppable. So he was unstoppable at times against Perth, but he just didn't play a lot of minutes. He still had 13 points, but I think he only played 12 or 13 minutes, and especially on Sunday, the Sydney Kings didn't have an answer for him, so he could score at will when he caught the ball against the Kings. So the Taipans are down 2. There's a minute to go in the game. They just need to score to try to force the game into overtime, and Nate's sitting on the bench still. Is that the right call? To me, he's your best option to get 2 easy points.
Yeah, I understand where a lot of people are coming from that, but you've also got to look at from the defensive side. Yeah, and I think that's where, if you said that was the last possession, then yeah, I think you potentially throw him in there. And the thing I like about Nate is actually playing with him, he's a willing passer. So if he gets doubled, you can play through him, and you're going to get an open 3 when you're down 2. You could easily be up by 1. But yeah, there's no one in the league. And I actually thought in that game against the Wildcats, Mooney picked up his second foul in that second quarter. I would have liked to seen, if I was the Taipans, just go to Nate against Mooney. You get, we talk about him being one of the best players in the NBL. You get him out of the lineup, it's going to help your chances. There was a couple times where, there was nothing. There's nothing most players can do against JY when he's got enough time to seal and put in some work on the post move. So he's either going to get a one-on-one, which is pretty tough to stop, or he's going to draw a double team and get open shots. So I think they could play through him a little bit. I always like playing through Nate. Maybe start him, play through him a little bit, get him feeling good, get the other guys open shots, which then will make them feeling good, and then they're starting to roll instead of.
Might also send a rocket up Cam Oliver.
And and get Oliver playing back to the level that we know that he's capable of. He just he's pretty far off it at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Now, just quickly before we get to our Hoop 7 Play of the Year vote, Sean, I wanted to talk about the Aurora Hawks. I think Brian Goorjian makes a pretty good case that they've been pretty hard done by. Note now, I do preface that by saying no one has come close to being as hard done by as what the New Zealand Breakers are. So no one's denying that anyone's dealing with anything close to what the Breakers are dealing with. But for the Hawks to start this season with 15 of their first 16 games away from Wollongong, they're trying to build that trust back in the Wollongong community, but they're not able to play any home games. And now they've got a trip to Perth this weekend where, famously they struggle. Does Brian Goorjian have a good case to make that they've been treated pretty harshly in this first half of the season?
Well, I think, I don't think it was the NBL's view and their want to get Illawarra Hawks 15 or 16 games on the road. But yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think that there's no denying that playing on the road is going to be a lot harder. And obviously the Breakers are the hardest with that as well. But if you are the Hawks and you're looking at your record, you're feeling pretty good, 9-7. And let's say they do lose to the Wildcats, they're 9-8, but they've played
got a lot of home games to come.
A lot of home games, and my understanding is they've already got over 4,000 season members. That's how they got their Illawarra back.
Yep.
We were watching games last year where they're getting 1,200, 1,500 fans. If you pack that place with 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, you could quickly become one of the toughest places to play. It's a perfect arena for their size if they can just fill it up. And that place could become a fortress, and especially when you've got some talented players like Harvey and Jessup that can really fill it up. I think that they're in a good place to get into that top 4. I actually got them, finishing probably third, and then Bullets or the Kings in the fourth. I think the Phoenix are going to find it tough without Creek now.
Without Creek, yeah. I think you're probably spot on. That's probably the top four I would go with right now too. Okay, Shawn. Now we've got some catching up to do. So why don't we go with your votes from the last week at the NBL Cup first of all, and who stood out to you with your 5-4, 3-2 and 1?
Well, I think the two standout performers were Sobey and Cotton, and both scoring 30. Sobey twice in that round. So I went with Sobey 5, Cotton 4, Harvey 3, Mooney 2, and Creek 1. So I think that those guys were pretty outstanding in the NBL Cup and had some good rounds. And obviously, with the Hawks getting some wins, Phoenix finding a way to win as well. I think it's going to put, to me, it's kind of probably a 3 or 4 horse race at the moment between Cotton, Sobey, Harvey, and Mooney. And it kind of fits in with that round. So that's my round 9. And if I'm looking at round 10, I think Bryce 5, Mooney 4, Jarrell Martin 3. I think he's he's been really good for the Kings since he's come back. Landale 2. He puts up solid numbers each week, but that's with double team and triple team as a center has been pretty impressive. And then another guy, Ben Moore, 22. 10, he was outstanding, and I'll give Phoenix credit. They're just finding a way to win without a lot of talent sitting over there on the bench or not able to suit up for them. So I think the Phoenix have been impressive early on with just the adversity they've had to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very good votes. So thanks to Hoop 7 for the Player of the Year award. Check out our social media pages for the update on the leaderboard, and we'll be back next week with more votes. And the leaderboard's starting to take shape, so it's a fascinating race that we've got going, Shawn. So thanks to your votes, and let's take a deep breath. We'll come back with the Boomering Award with Damian Martin, then the TABtouch preview with Matty Knight, and then we'll be back, Shawn, to wrap things up. And now, thanks to Boomering, we're here on the Domo Award, the Best Defensive Player Award, here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. Martin is with us once again, but this wouldn't be possible without the support of Boomering, the best basketball system set up in the country. You can purchase whatever sort of basketball system you like, in-ground, above ground. We've got the custom flooring covered. You can make that however you like, whatever you want it to look like, whatever markings you would like, whatever decals you would like, which is a talking point right now. You can design it yourself. Boomering will install it, and thanks to their support here of the Domo Award, we've got a very special offer once again, thanks to Boomering. You can get 50% off a portable basketball system, 25% off an in-ground system, or 15% off the custom flooring, which is just incredible. So thanks to Boomering for their support. Now, on the Domo Award, let's get to Damian Martin. Okay, Damo, you're back here on the Domo Award thanks to Boomering. I've got to say, I really enjoyed what you brought to the telecast on, I can't remember what it was. When was the game? Sunday?
No, it was good to be back at RAC Arena. There really is just an energy that's inside of the arena, and you get caught up in it whether you're a player, spectator, or in this case a courtside commentator. So it's just good to be amongst it. And it's funny, with all the noise, even as close as you're allowed to get with the telecast, I could not hear a thing. So I'm trying to lip read, I'm trying to go off the whiteboard, and managed to get a few things I could relay back to the boys in the commentary booth in Melbourne.
Now, Trevor's pretty famous for keeping his cards close to his chest and hiding his whiteboard the best he can from the TV cameras, and hiding what he's saying in those huddles from people like you. Is it different with you? Is he a little bit more open with you, or now that you're on the enemy side of things, does he treat you the same?
It's funny because obviously when I see him drawing up a play, I do know what the play is, even without hearing him verbalise it. But it's the conditioning coach and the manager who usually stand in front of me, and it's a bit of a joke, a bit of a laugh. I mean, the reality is, even if I know they're going to run, horns or a loops or, the flex, all these different options they have, doesn't matter whether it's the Wildcats or the opposition team. I'm not actually going to call out the player. I might say, look to them to go to this player. But, yeah, I don't want to be the reason a team wins or loses because I've given away that. But if I know they're going to run a play for a person, I'll probably say keep an eye out on them looking to this guy. But I actually saw Adelaide draw up a play, and I thought, okay, it's going to go to Daniel Johnson. Next thing, it went to someone else altogether. So I'm like, you don't want to be embarrassed and say, yep, they're definitely running a play for so-and-so, and then be made to look like a fool. So I'm a little cautious out of the timeouts about disrespecting the game itself, but then also being just completely wrong and embarrassing myself.
So I got my days confused before. Of course, it was Monday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little Monday night game. But, hey, that's how much basketball that is being played at the moment. It's about to ramp up again. So NBL Cup went back to a bit of normality with Friday through Monday. And now it's back to, just about every day. I feel like there's going to be a game played.
It will be. Starting next Wednesday, there's a game every single day for the next 18 days.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
I want to pick your brain a little bit about that game on Monday because I was fascinated by some of your insights that you did provide. The thing I liked about it was sometimes the commentators back in the studio tend to forget they've got somebody courtside, but they seem to get you involved a lot more, and I found it really enjoyable. Now, some of the coaching moves, Connor Henry didn't get a lot out of Brendan Paul, didn't play him a lot. He only played him for 18 minutes of the game. Going into the game, I thought for the 36ers to win, he had to go for 30-plus and maybe 40-plus. But I think he only took 5 shots for the game. What did you make of the way Connor Henry used Brendan Paul?
It really did take me by surprise. In particular, they were without Gideon Humphreys. Yep. So that 1-2 punch with your point guard and best player of the season so far, you've got to... It's kind of an opportunistic time to just say, all right, Paul, get out there, tonight's your night to shine, and we're going to learn how you play, where your best positions are, and then when we get these other 2 guys back, fit you into it. Mm-hmm. Instead, he sat for about the first 6 minutes of the second half. Yeah. It genuinely took me by surprise. So I'm not sure if he's still on minutes, if there's something niggling. He looked like he was physically fine, but there was a bit of frustration that seemed to be pent up. And I think some of that came from sitting on the bench for long periods of time when, your team is down. Now, credit to Adelaide. Like I said, they were without 2 of their better players. They were playing away against a team that had won 9 of their previous 10 games, but they stayed in it. So even though when you were there, it felt like the Wildcats had control, you look at the scoreboard and there was only a 6 to 10 point game for the majority of the 40 minutes. So Adelaide were right there, but I would have been throwing Brendan Paul out there and just saying, let's get you and Daniel Johnson as many touches as both of you want, and then the other guys will step up accordingly. So, yeah, the little I saw of him, he looks like he wants to be here. Yeah. The body language is what you want to see. The frustration was at the fact they were losing and, he couldn't quite get into the game. So, yeah, I would have given him more opportunity, definitely more minutes, and just said, here's the ball, go play. Now, the one time they did give him the ball, it was the end of a shot clock when the whole Wildcats knew he was going to go 1-on-5 and Nordo makes a big play, takes a charge. But that's the type of move you make when you're frustrated. You haven't had the ball in your hands much. You haven't had many looks. So, yeah, I think he showed enough in the first few games. The glimpses we've seen, I believe he's going to be a special player in this league. But, yeah, I was disappointed because purely from a spectator's point of view, I would have loved to have seen him out there for 30-plus minutes opposed to playing, a little over half the game. So, yeah, it was interesting. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but would love to have seen more out of Brendan Paul because I think he's going to be a stud. And that Adelaide roster at full strength, now whether it's too little too late, but they can string off a bunch of wins together. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to Paul averaging 16-plus a game, plus what you're going to get out of your tall timber in Johnson and Humphreys, and Giddy's obviously a special talent with Sunday doing his thing. So they've got a great roster once they're going to be at full strength. But get Paul into it. Let's go and do something special.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I posed the question. The other thing was I was fascinated with your take on, or I guess the question you posed about, would you throw everything if you were the 36ers into trying to shut down everybody else except for Bryce Cotton? So potentially put Sunday Detch onto, say, a Todd Blanchfield or a Clint Steindl, and then if Bryce goes for 50, so be it. But if nobody else scores more than, say, 5, you're a good chance to win the game. I mean, I think we've seen when the Wildcats have been at their best, it's when Blanchfield and Mooney have been making really strong contributions and Cotton has still been doing what Bryce does. In hindsight, would have you put more effort into potentially shutting down the other contributors and just accepting that Bryce was pretty hot?
Yeah, I think you've got to start Sunday on Bryce.
Yep.
But to be honest, I didn't even know where I sat with the answer. I just wanted to pose it to the guys. I think I would have loved to have seen, because you've got to look at who stepped up in the second half. Bryce was still fantastic, but he did become more of a facilitator. He finished with 34, 36 points, so he scored 13 in the second half, but finished with 6 assists, and most of those came in the second half. They didn't get the 10 plus points out of Blanchfield, what they're accustomed to, but it was Nordo that stepped up, and now that's someone they could have been guarding. And going back to Brendan Paul, he actually is a good defender. Now, watching him off the ball,
the challenge on Bryce too.
I agree. I would have loved to have seen him guarding Bryce, because he is super athletic and he actually could lock and trail and be right there on the catch with Bryce. Now, I would love to have seen Brendan Paul guarding Bryce, throw Sunday on Nordo or Blanchfield, depending on who was getting hot, and then, really get after the other players to say, hey, we've got to get Mooney off the glass. At the end of the day, it was a 10-point margin, but when they extended it to, after 16 or 18, it was off the back of multiple offensive rebounds. Now, that's where, as a player out on the court, I'd be ripping my bigs saying, we know Mooney's the best rebounder in this league by a country mile, and we've lost to a guy playing to his strengths. So
I think it was 24 offensive rebounds to 5 in the end.
Yeah, and when you're there live, we're like, the Wildcats, but they're building this lead off the back of having multiple looks at the ring each possession. And, Trev used to say, all sins are forgiven if you rebound. So he doesn't care what you do prior to the shot going up. You better go secure that ball. And, Adelaide were doing themselves a disservice because, like I said, I was watching Brandon Paul really lock a trail and then show his hands and push Bryce to the screen he wanted. But then they get an offensive rebound and all of a sudden you're in scramble mode, and that's when, Paul runs through Nordo, they get free throws, he gets in foul trouble, there's frustration. But you rebound and it becomes a different ball game. And, credit to Mooney for reading the flight of the ball, getting himself in the position, the hustle. Clint Steindl saves a couple that go out of bounds, were going to go out of bounds. And that's where the game was. So, I would have, to get back to your question, I would love to have seen Paul spend more time on Bryce, and then Sunday float between Nordo or Blanchfield, depending on who was getting hot. So throwing him to Blanchfield to start, and then when Nordo began doing his thing, go and jump on him as well. So, it would have been something worth testing, especially in a game where you're not expected to win, just so you could have seen, what may have come about, and test your new import in Paul to see what he can do defensively on the opposition's best player.
You mentioned Clint Steindl. When you're a team and you're hanging around with each other during the week, do you ever mention what an opposition coach might say that's caught up on the TV camera about one of your teammates? Because Connor quite clearly called out Clint Steindl for being a terrible defender. Would that be something that gets brought up this week?
No, we don't. I mean, I remember I win or lose, I'd come straight home and watch the game on mute. So, one of the things I always preach is that the voices in the room, the locker room, that matter the most. Yep. So just go and watch the game. Did we stick to the game plan? Was this what we expected of each other and my role within the team? So for me, it wasn't about the external voices, but you're aware of how teams are going to come in and what their scout may be. Now, Clint is a better defender than what he gets credit for, and he's worked on it a lot over the last 24 months. Yeah, exactly. It is. It certainly is harsh. So, Clint knows that some teams will go at him, but he has worked on it. And I think if you were to compare him as a defender now to, 3 or 4 seasons ago, he's continuing to get better. So, if Connor Henry or any opposing coach, if that's their game plan, then, it's like when you hear, hey, go post Bryce up. Yep. It's not as simple as that, because Bryce is quick enough to front you, and then are you willing to throw a lob pass to another point guard with Bryce, who's going to be more athletic, over him? And if you do so, how many point guards actually have a post-up game in this league? You're going back to it. Cedric Jackson, when Ramon Moore played the 2-3, he could post up. Homicide. But outside of those two guys, Homicide, there's only a handful of guys in the last 10 years that felt comfortable in the post. It's like saying to someone that Clint may be guarding, hey, all of a sudden, you go play one-on-one basketball out there or 1-on-5 in an ISO. Not a lot of guys are used to that now. Bryce is, Machado is, but just a random wing player, it's not usually their style. So, I hear those comments about getting after someone defensively, but putting them in a different role offensively can be just as uncomfortable. So, no, I don't think you're going to win many games by simply saying, hey, whoever's Clint is guarding, go play ISO ball, because you may not be playing to your own strength. Yeah, I agree. The defensive team's got all the rebounding position because they're just going to stand and watch. So, no, it's always nice hearing the insight. Yeah. And like players, sometimes coaches get it wrong as well. And I think this time it's not necessarily going to be a strength of opposition to attack Clint every single time.
Okay, let's get to the votes in the Damo Award. Now, our one vote. Now, I've seen a lot of comments this year pop up about how a lot of people feel like this guy is one of the best defenders in NBL history, and they probably got a fair case, but he's never won an NBL Defensive Player of the Year award because you took them all. But I think he's underrated. So I reckon his one vote this week is probably for an overall achievement award. Not to say that he didn't do well last weekend, but he probably deserves to be on the leaderboard somewhere.
Yeah, you're exactly. And he is first. I want to say he's been in the league 13 years. I could be incorrect.
Yep.
For 13 years, he's been a very good player in the league and a great defender. So, yeah, Tom Abercrombie, who's still super athletic, I know the Breakers are doing it tough and, they lose by nearly 20 points. They lose by 21 points against the Bullets. But purely from my point of view, looking at Abercrombie, Vic Law, who I rate as one of the best players in the league, he played 32 and a half minutes, held to 7 points. A lot of those 32 minutes, he did have Abercrombie guarding him. But, obviously New Zealand are doing it tough. But Abercrombie plays 37 and a half minutes, manages to get a steal against him, 4 rebounds. I know it's not huge numbers, but he just contests every time. He lock and trails. He shoots the gap when he's supposed to shoot the gap. He's one of those guys you can just leave out for, like I said, 37 and a half minutes, knowing he's not going to make too many mistakes, and he's not going to break your game plan defensively because he is so switched on. I remember there was an offense we used to run with the Wildcats, which was essentially we're just setting up the whole play for a backdoor cut to try and get a dunk and really get the crowd into it. Now, Abercrombie, we only run it probably one every 3 games, but it was a defining moment in those games because it might be taking a 6-point lead to an 8 and really getting the crowd into it. Every time we play New Zealand, you'd be like, I'm only going to run it if Abercrombie's not on the court because he was so switched on in the moment that even if he wasn't guarding the guy we're trying to set up for the backdoor cut, he'd be yelling it out, it's this, it's this, it's this. And, that's a play, like I said, we only run once in a blue moon. That's what he's like with every offense. He knows the scout. He knows what the other team's running. He's got the athleticism and the speed to stay in front of players, and he's got the willingness to contest every shot. So a long overdue point is going to Tom Abercrombie, not just off the back of, a good performance against Brisbane, but, I watched him again and again. I'm like, how have I not given him a point at some stage? And I haven't told you this, but I'm going to throw a spanner in the works and you're going to have to upgrade the leaderboard. I've got to throw someone else in there for another point. Apologies, Mikey. For 1 point as well this week, we're going to go to Cam Glidden. I know I gave him a point or 2 last week, but at the end of the day, he finished the game with 4 steals and 7 defensive rebounds. Again, I think with the overtime game, he played over 40 minutes. Similar to Abercrombie, now that Glidden is healthy, I know he's dealing with back issues in years gone by. Now that he's healthy, he's just reading the game really well. So that's why he's being able to shoot some gaps, to dig and get a deflection occasionally, depending on who he's guarding. So I just like that he's out there mobile, and to be able to play that many minutes and get in the stands. There's different types of players. There's ball pressure guys and there's containment guys. He's more of a containment guy who can then shoot a gap and get you a steal if there's a sloppy pass or just according to his basketball IQ and reading it. So I'm going to throw Glidden in there, 4 steals, 7 defensive boards. The least I can do is give him a point.
No, well deserved. Now, 2 votes. This guy doesn't get a lot of attention because he plays on a team with a lot of stars, but for whatever reason, I think the Sydney Kings at both ends of the floor look a lot better when he's out on the court.
Yeah, and he was nearly a poster, and in hindsight, it was probably a foul, but not probably, it definitely was a foul. But yeah, I'm going to give 2 points to Craig Moller. Again, just solid. More than anything, he was just solid. But when you're coming up against Cairns, who are desperate, Oliver's still one of the best bigs in the league, or capable of, doing some special things out there. I just thought Moller just is constantly there. Oliver played over 31 minutes. Finishes with 7 points, but as the efficiency 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3-pointers. He's just making life tough for whoever he's guarding. But if you pay attention to Sydney, he's always in the right spot for the help side. Yep. So if Casper wants to be able to crawl in, because he's one of those pressure defenders I spoke about. When Casper wants to crawl in and really get after an opposition guard, which can open yourself up to some blow-bys, he knows that Moller's going to be at the help line, hands up. He's going to contest a shot, whether it's a floater, an attempt at dunk, a pull-up. And so he's just one of those reliable help-side defenders. So on the ball, he's doing a good job pressuring, denying, but then he's always playing weak side. So you love guys like that to know you can crawl into a guy, and if you get beaten, you've got the help behind you. So, 2 points this week goes to Craig Moller. Oh, some big blocks. Yeah. And he got a steal as well. I thought, he's having a good season, but defensively in particular, I thought he, stood out against, who I still rate, albeit a down season by his standards. But Oliver can do some special things. But when you got someone like Moller making life tough, it results in a 7-point performance.
3 votes. I think it was a no-brainer this week. Firstly, against Machado on on Friday night. He was brilliant. And then just the way he plays pressure, the way he sneaks up and can pull off some of those steals, the way he doesn't foul while putting that pressure on with his hands up, it was a pretty clear choice for the 3 votes.
Yeah, and I think this comes off the back of an incredible NBL Cup. I thought he was the unheralded stud. Obviously everyone's going to talk about Bryce, about Blanchfield, and about Mr. Double himself in Mooney. But I think Nordo has been incredible this year. I think it's his best season to date in the Wildcats jersey. And defensively is where he's really leading it. He finished with 13 points, which is probably his best output at that end this season. But you're right, he just doesn't give up on any play. There was a big moment against Adelaide where he chases back, gets a tip from behind. Just every time it felt like Adelaide were going to get a momentum swing, the Wildcats got a few stops defensively, and that was off the back of Mitch North. So huge charge. To be able to slide your feet, I think, I still rate Sunday as probably the best pressure defender in the league. Like I just mentioned, Casper Ware does it as well. There's a few guys that can really crawl up and in. It does expose you to blow-bys. But when it comes to containment defense, I think Nordo would have to be the hardest to get by because what he does is he stays in it. So even if you get on his hip, he's strong enough just to show his chest, show his arms. It's hard for the refs to call a foul on him because he is sliding and showing his hands. He doesn't reach in. So although he doesn't get many steals by picking you, he takes charges, but he also causes a lot of contested shots and sends the offensive player to a position to shoot the ball that he didn't want to get to. So by staying in the play, sliding his feet, staying in front, he is really going to another level defensively this year. And he's got my 3 points again. And like I've told you, I don't check the leaderboard, but I feel like I've said Nordo's name a few times of late, so I'm guessing he's creeping up there and deservedly so.
I think it's fair to say the names you've mentioned the most are Sunday and Nordo, and probably in the top 2 positions. I won't tell you where they're situated, but I think that's a fair bet, Damo. Been a fascinating segment. I hope everyone's enjoying this. Thanks to Boomering for making it possible, and we'll check back in with you. Oh, actually, firstly, have you got another game on the microphone this week, Damo?
No, it'll be Shawnee on Friday. Tomorrow night I'm actually heading up to the Pilbara to run some basketball clinics, but then I'll be back for the following week and very much looking forward to getting back out there. So
you might even have some weddings on this weekend, do you, Damo, as a celebrant?
I do. I'm up in the Pilbara for basketball tomorrow, get back Saturday at lunchtime, and there better not be a delay because I'm a celebrant for 2 p.m. later that day. So we'll see how we go.
Good luck, Damo. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Pikey. Cheers.
Okay, thank you to Damian Martin for the Boomering Award once again here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. And now it's time for the TABtouch preview. We'll be joined by Matty Knight once again to get all of the insights and his tips and thoughts on round 11 now in the NBL. But of course, head to TABtouch, tabtouch.com.au for all of your NBL betting markets you could ever hope to find. Not only do we have all of the head-to-head matchups for the upcoming games this weekend in the NBL, but you can pick any sort of market that you might hope for to do with an NBL game. You can go for the game totals, the winning margins, the half and the full-time double. You can go for the line betting on the margins and the total scores. Who's going to score the most points from a player's point of view? Who will score a double-double? You might want to put that money on John Mooney right now. Margin betting, wire-to-wire betting. Who's going to get the most assists in a game? Will somebody get a triple-double? So keep an eye out if Josh Giddey's going to play for the Adelaide 36ers maybe this weekend. The most points, the most rebounds, anything you hope for. Hopefully you can find a winner at tabtouch.com.au. Remember to gamble responsibly. And of course, make sure you check out the multi-bet selections from Matty Knight, who we'll hear from right now, and Shawn Redhage, thanks to TABtouch. And they'll be trying to win for charity, but they'll also be trying to help you find a winner. But for now, thanks to TABtouch, let's get on to Matty Knight. Back here with Matty Knight on the TABtouch preview. Matty, how do we find you for another week? And how frustrated are you getting with some of these NBL teams that keep letting you down? Because that's where you keep looking at. Your selections on your multi-bet are pretty sound, but you keep getting let down week after week.
And that's like I said a couple of weeks ago, whoever I put money on, they end up going to lose. So maybe if I put some on the favourites, the underdogs would probably end up winning. But no, it shows you how close the league is this year. That you don't bring each game, then there's an upset that could occur.
What are you thinking of what you're saying right now? Are you enjoying the competitiveness of the league right now? Because like you said, you really don't know who's going to win any game going into it. You look at the Taipans and the Breakers who are down the bottom of the ladder, but it wouldn't surprise you any week if they could sort of knock off a Wildcats and a United. Are you enjoying what you're seeing from the league this season?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic for the league to have such a close between top to bottom. Normally, every year the top four and the bottom four are really separated. But this year, it's not looking that way. You look at the ladder. Perth won 11 games, but you look at it down to 6. I think they've won 8 or 9 games. You can't afford to drop too many in a row, especially over a long season. Because it's very close. You need to win the games you're meant to win and then sneak a few in where you're probably the outsider. So, no, it's fantastic for the league, and the imports this year are really helping the league. Absolutely. But even the local grown players coming back to play shows you it's one of the top leagues in the world right now.
Absolutely. Connor Henry, last week when I spoke to him, he said that he's got no doubt that it's a top 3 league in the world right now. He'd only put the NBA and the high-level EuroLeague ahead of the NBL right now.
Yeah, definitely. You just look at the imports that are coming out here, and even former NBA or current NBA guys are starting to buy into ownership of teams, which shows you it's gaining traction. And what Larry and that have done is put Australian basketball on the map. And you got Olympics coming up this year, and the Boomers hopefully be coming away with a medal for the first time. So it's very exciting times ahead for Australian basketball and the NBL.
Absolutely. Now, it's amazing to think that some teams still haven't even played half their games yet this season. When you think about it, a 36-game season and all pretty condensed, you're not getting much time in between games right now. How do you reckon you would be holding up in a 36-game season, Matty?
If I'm younger me, I'd probably be okay, but towards the end of the career, I'm not sure how the body would handle 36 games, but as a player, you love getting out there playing at beach training every day of the week.
Oh, it's an interesting
more
one.
Opportunities to get to play a game.
It's an interesting one. Did you find yourself more exhausted after training sessions or after games?
After training.
Yeah.
You used to beat each other up on the training court, so you walk away pretty sore. But like they said, training is always going to be harder than games, which made games easier at times.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to round 11 in the NBL, Matty. And it starts Thursday in Bendigo. So it seems very funny to say this. Technically, it's a New Zealand Breakers home game. I think that's not doing them really much of a service, but we'll go with it. So we've got the Breakers up against Melbourne United, and on TABtouch, the Breakers $2.60, Melbourne United $1.51.
Melbourne United right now up and down. You're not sure who. Well, you would have thought they'd go up to Sydney and get a win, but they didn't, and then
lost by 30.
You're just not sure what Melbourne United team, but New Zealand, I think they are hopefully counting down the days to their Prime Minister says they can have free travel between Australia and New Zealand so they can get home. But, I think being in Melbourne, even though it's a Breakers home game, I think United should get a comfortable win.
Yeah, it's a bit rough counting that as one of their home games, but we'll take it for what it is. Friday night standalone game: Perth Wildcats and the Illawarra Hawks. 136 the Wildcats, 320 the Hawks. You know the history of this rivalry. You were part of it a long time. The Hawks have won once in the last 33 times coming to Perth. Can they make it 2?
Oh, it'll be a tough one. The way Perth are playing right now, but you can never write off any Gorgon coach team. I'm sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve for this game, and especially after last time these two teams played, Perth embarrassed Illawarra. So I'm sure that's in the back of their minds. But coming over here to the jungle, the Red Army's going to be fired up, and Perth are playing some pretty good basketball. So like you say every week, you can shut Cotton down, you can beat the Wildcats, but unfortunately not too many teams have found the blueprint to do that right now. So I think Perth should get a win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks come out and probably cause upset of the round.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I definitely think it'll be much closer than last time they met at the NBL Cup. Then Saturday, you got a feel for the Breakers. Short turnaround. They head up to Brisbane to play the Bullets for the first game on Saturday. Brisbane favourites 155 on TABtouch. The Breakers are 255.
Yeah, you got a feel for New Zealand, but they can't get settled anywhere right now. You're just going from hotel to hotel, jumping on a plane, going to a hotel, go play, get on a plane, go to a different hotel. You've been doing that since, November, December. Mentally, it's going to take its toll. And even though It's against Brisbane. They've played pretty well against. I think it's half the season gone. You've been on the road that long. I think their minds will be starting to focus on when we're getting home. So I think Brisbane quite comfortable in this game.
Yeah. Now this one should be a really good one. So both teams still missing some key players, but we know that they enjoy playing against each other. No travel involved because they're both in Melbourne. So we've got the Phoenix against United Saturday night. Phoenix $2.12. We've got United $1.72 on TABtouch.
Yeah, no, I was probably last week with Mitch Creek. He would have thought South East had no chance, but they've come out and got a win. Ryan Brokoff's only going to get more comfortable each session he spends and each game he plays with. Phoenix, but then United, big game on tonight, and if they win that, they'll come in with a lot of confidence, and you're probably expecting to back up against Phoenix, but you just never know. I actually think the Phoenix may get this one. You've got a lot to play for. You want to continue to build momentum, and you don't know how long Mitch Creek's out for, so you're going to have to try and get as many wins as you can, and I'm tipping the Phoenix to get this one.
Yeah, and I think they're pretty much now at full strength, aside from Mitch Creek. So I think Kiefer Sykes will be back. They've got Dane Pino back now. Adam Gibson's back. So, yeah, aside from Creek, they're actually looking pretty good now.
Well, that's it. You get, and Brokoff, they're going to bring that inside presence, and Ryan's going to add an extra 3-point shooter you got there with Cam Glidden and that. So I think they're going to build from last week and cause an upset over United.
Now Sunday, this is probably the game of the round for mine. The Kings, who are now building some really good form against the Wildcats, who we know come into this round on top of the ladder. They meet it in Sydney. So the Kings are $2.08 outsiders on tap. The Wildcats $1.74.
Yeah, no, I have touch radio on Tuesday and what game I was looking most forward to, and it's definitely this one. The two form teams of the competition right now, and I believe Sydney have got allowed for the full capacity now. Yeah. I believe. I imagine they're going to pack out the stadium. So, and Fordy's got them playing some really good basketball right now. He knows the Wildcats inside out, and they had a close game last time. So, I think Sydney at home should get this one.
Now Sunday, these two teams really need a win. We've got the Cairns Taipans back home against the Adelaide 36ers. We still don't know about Josh Giddey's health. We know they'll still be without Isaac Humphries. So TABtouch has Cairns the slight favourites, $1.72. Adelaide are $2.12.
Yeah, no, got a feel for Adelaide. They just can't catch a break right now with injuries. But you got to give them credit. On Monday, they pushed the Wildcat. No Humphries. Sunday fouls out. So
no Giddey.
You got to build a lot of confidence. And even Brandon Paul, ankle, he didn't play much. No. So you go down by 10 to probably the form team of the competition. Even though you didn't get the win, you got to take some confidence from that. And I think Cairns right now, I think they're just looking forward to getting home. Maybe they can play some inside basketball, throw Nate Jarwa in there more because, poor Daniel Johnson's not going to look forward to that coverage. No. He has to guard with Nate. So I think Cairns back at home, they've got to start playing some good basketball soon. So I'm picking Cairns.
And I think you're exactly right. If they go to Nate inside, that's the answer. I mean, I couldn't believe that they had Nate on the bench in the last minute of the game against Sydney on the weekend because Sydney had no answer for him, but he was sitting on the bench when they needed 2 points to send the game into overtime. I think Nate holds the key there, and I think you're right, Matty. Last game of the round, Monday night, the Aurora Hawks back home. They're just their second game of the season, so I think this will be their 17th game or 18th game of the season, and it's their second game only at home, and they'll be at home in Wollongong hosting the Brisbane Bullets.
I think the Illawarra back home, you imagine they're going to have the tip full, so I think Illawarra. They're going to start playing good basketball. They've got too good a team right now to be where they are. They just need to find that consistency. Brisbane, they're starting to play some good basketball. Obviously, picking Patterson up. Be interesting to see which Lamar they get. The one that played for Brisbane last year or
the New Zealand one.
Yeah, New Zealand. So, and coming back from injury is not going to help his conditioning either. So I think the Hawks, with the fans behind them, should get a win on Monday night.
So plenty of fascinating games there to look forward to this weekend. Now, before I let you go, Matty, it's getting very close to the the National Championships. You're coaching the WA state team. I think it's only 2 weeks away before you head off. How's your team coming together, and how much are you enjoying being involved as the coach?
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. Coming from Tassie, a lot of the country kids down there, and getting to work with the country kids over here, it's been fantastic. There's a lot of talent there, and 2 weeks today we fly out. So looking forward to getting over to Melbourne. Hopefully everything stays the way it's going right now, and so it stays away. But we got the draw yesterday. We got a pretty tough draw, but boys, they're excited. We've got quite a few boys that have never been away, so it'll be a new experience for them, but one they'll enjoy. So we've got our city versus country clash on Saturday at the Bender Stadium, so it'll be a good hit out against the Metro boys. A lot of our boys have never beaten the Metro boys, so right now we're focused on that game and trying to cause an upset there and build some momentum before we head away.
No, it sounds great, Matty. We'll stay in touch every week on your progress there and see how you go. And, win or lose, I mean, these players are going to have a great experience playing under someone like you, and also just getting the experience of going away together. So, yeah, we look forward to following that progress. We look forward to trying to raise some money with your multi-bet this week thanks to TABtouch for charity.
Hopefully I get one.
Let's hope so, Matty. But thanks again for your insights, and we'll check back in next week.
Thanks, Pikey.
Okay, thanks to Matty Knight for that TABtouch preview. Now, Shawn, we got the full market there available for you to pick your multi from this week. Matty's taken some interesting views, and he's desperately trying to get off the zero that he's on for charity. What do you think of the round 11 matches that gets underway on Thursday with the Breakers and Melbourne United?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's probably picking the United, and I'm going to go with that route as well. It's the Breakers just haven't been able to find some consistency in United. They were struggling, but they got a good win to finish off the week last week. So I think, that'll give them some confidence. Looking at Friday night, we know the Hawks struggle, although this is a different look Hawks team now that Brian Goorjian is in charge, and probably don't have too many players with the ghosts of some of the losses over the years.
No,
so I think it's gonna be a more competitive game than you think, but got to go with the hottest team in the league at the moment with the Wildcats. You look at Saturday night, gonna go with the Bullets again. Against the Breakers. I feel bad for the Breakers, and especially getting a Bullets team who's feeling good about themselves playing at home, and the Breakers are playing their second game of the week against a fresher team. So that one's going to be tough. And then, you've got the big matchup between the two Melbourne teams. And, I know Phoenix got them earlier in the year, but I think United, with so many of the players that the Phoenix are missing, although they're having to play their second game as well, I'm going to go with United. I think their depth is going to get them over the line in that one. And then this is an interesting one, the Kings and the Wildcats. I like the way the Kings are playing now that Jarwa Martin is back. It'll be interesting to see, with Hunter and Martin, that big lineup, if that can give the Wildcats trouble, because we know Mooney's kind of that 4-5. He probably prefers the 4 spot. He's playing for the 5 and doing well with the Wildcats, but they have, some extra bodies in there to be able to match up with the saws that the Kings, and then we know they got the shooters around them. So it's going to be a tough one, but I'm actually going to pick the Kings in that one. You can't win every game if you're the Wildcats, and, their streak's got to come to an end at some point. This league is just too tough, and obviously playing on Friday and traveling on Sunday and still being able to get things done on one day's rest is tough. Taipans, 36ers. I'm going to go with the Taipans. That's a tough one. You got two struggling teams, but them being at home, I think, is going to help them. And finish off the round, the Hawks and the Bullets. That's that's a lot of implications for top 4 right there. The Hawks finally get a home game. I think they're going to be pretty excited to be playing at home, and I'm going to go with the Hawks at home on Monday night.
Yep, I think so too. So we'll keep track of that. Now, before I wrap things up, Shawn, what's the first thing you go to say to Brian Goorjian when you see him for the first time in more than a decade on Friday night?
Oh, I'm just, it'll be great to see him in person. Hopefully I get to, I'm actually going to be working the game on the sideline. So I think I got a lot of respect for Gorgon, and, he treated me extremely well during my time with the Boomers. So, it'll be good to catch up and just kind of see how he's doing, how his family, and how he's enjoying being back in the NBL. So he's a great guy, he's a great coach, and it'll be fun to kind of reminisce a little bit. But I haven't really spoken to him a whole lot over the last probably 6 to 8 years. So it's obviously with him being in China, so it'll be great to catch up and see what his thoughts are. One of the things I'm interested to see what's his thoughts are the NBL these days from when he left the NBL. And just kind of get his take on it, because he's probably have a pretty good take with just how long he's been in the league before and seeing where it is now.
That sounds like a discussion we should be sitting down with him for a bonus show. So we hope to make that happen at some point this season with yourself and Brian Gorgon. So stay tuned for that. But let's wrap up this week. It's been another big show. Thanks to the TABtouch preview once again with Matty Knight. Thanks to the Damo Award. Thanks to Boomering. Thanks to Hoops Heaven for making it all possible. I'm Chris Pike. I'll sign off and leave you once again the wise words of the scoring machine.
Well, thanks, Pikey. Yes, it's one of the things I'm interested to see. We know the level of play that Bryce Cotton has been playing in, but how are teams going to adjust? We heard Damian Martin on the broadcast talking about, do they put their best player on someone else to try and stop them? You got to try and do something. And so I know Gorgon will have something up his sleeves. We saw the Kings try a triangle and 2 on him at one stage in the finals last year. But, this league is too good, too good of coaches. I'm interested to see the changes that they do to try and slow down Bryce Cotton, who's just been unstoppable so far.